What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of In the Cutting Room. In the Cutting Room is a new podcast show hangout where we are going behind the scenes to figure out what are the great creative decisions to make a great ad. The Cutting Room is known back in the day where filmmakers would go and literally cut strips of film and then put it together and make the movie. And then whatever else was on the ground, that was left in the cutting room. And what we want to know is what happened in the cutting room. And we want to take that same kind of concept and bring it to ad creative strategy. There's a lot of people out there talking about content and ads at a very high level, but nobody's really going in depth inside of what does it look like. So this show is that. First episode, we talked all things about our research, how to get together a great brief, how to make the perfect brief. This is part 1 of 4 or 5, depending on how things go, that we're going to do of complete creative strategy from end to end, soups to nuts, all that fun stuff that we do here at Good Studios. You're going to learn everything, okay? Today, we're talking about production, and I want to start out with a story, okay? So it's the day before this big photo shoot. I had the house booked. We were going to shoot at, and I started asking the owner for details. And I'm like, hey, just want to get a little bit more info about the getting into the house, etc. No response. Silence. I started to get weirded out. I'm like, okay, they're not responding. This is weird. And I hadn't had this happen before. Like, usually book spaces, it's all good. By 8 p.m., I realized I'm going to need to get another plan going. So I jumped back onto Peerspace. I'm on Airbnb. I'm reaching out to anybody and everybody. And I somehow got, at 11 p.m., I got the green light for another house to then shoot. Next day, we did the shoot. It went great. It was just another Tuesday in production. And this is just a story I want to start out with. That's an anecdote of what happens on production for ads. Things don't go as planned. So you need to be flexible, adaptable, and you got to be organized for the chaos. Now, everybody loves to talk about ads, but few can produce them, right? So there's a difference about talking about ads and then actually doing them, all right? Making ads is very hard to execute. Poor production planning could be the killer of a great ad idea. Now, if you listen to the first episode, you realize how much work goes into coming up with an idea. All that research, the briefing, all that stuff. But that's not it. That's just the beginning of so much more work to do just to get the ad out. So most people that are talking about creating ads have other people creating them for them. But what I'm going to do from my perspective, because we do things a little bit different out here at Go to Studios here in Seattle, Washington. We shoot all of our content in person. So instead of shipping random product out to creators after the creative strategy, no, we get the talent. We rent the locations. We shoot all of it. We edit all of it. And we're shooting 3-4 times a week in person here in Seattle. At one point, it started with just me. Now we're at a team of 12. That's a lot. So for this to work, we got a well-oiled machine, and lucky for you, I'm going to just go break it all down. You can use whatever you want from this, whether you're working with creators or not. You can take a lot of this stuff, and this is going to be super helpful. We're also going to talk through production and not just how to shoot things, or not how to plan things, but also how to shoot things and things like that. So I would just say, just to kind of caveat this, or just to kind of finalize that last thought, which is I feel like I know what I'm talking about here, because I actually am not just talking theory about how to talk about creative ops. I'm in the ops. I built these ops. I've seen these ops. I can run a camera. So I feel like I can give you guys a lot of good kind of perspective from somebody who's shooting a lot of this content. Again, take it and kind of move it to how it helps you in your production and things like that. Let's talk about planning though. All right, let's jump right into it. People love to talk about the creative strategy, but then the logistics beyond the creative strategy just goes downhill. All right. let's just start out with, as we're thinking about planning production. Production happens in the real world. Let me say that again. Production happens in the real world. So you got to be prepared for shipping products, coordinating schedules of people, buying props, etc. There are a lot of variables that could change, most likely will change. And being organized up front can really help you do that. So how do we get this all together? We've got this great research. We've got the great ideas. Now we need to actually start thinking about how we're going to actually take this from idea to actual ad. Cool. Start with this one thing. Set the date. All right. Before you jump into all the fun parts, like, ooh, what talent should we get? Ooh, who's going to shoot this? Oh, where are we going to shoot this content? Just first and foremost, think about the date. Okay. Because then from that date, everything else is set around that date. And honestly, even if you were working with creators, you should have a time frame. Be like, hey, creators, like I want you to be shooting for this date so that I can then have, content from you a day later. So like if you're shooting in person and or with other people outside, like have a date, have a time frame, like have a plan. This is super helpful. So all production should have dates. Okay. Let's go into talent. A great part about shooting in person is getting talent that looks like your ideal customer. Like I don't know many 6-year-old women creators, but I do know that tends to be people with money and that buy a lot of these products. I don't know many 6-year-old women creators, but I do know a lot that love to be on camera if we just tell them what to do. And that's what's so great about casting is you can find, anybody, girl, guy, doesn't really matter, age, dog, cat, you can find them all. So you can get your ideal customer kind of on camera. And as you're writing each brief or script, you really want to have that person in mind of like who's going to be in front of the camera. This is just super helpful. Like to find talent, we use a few different things. We use Facebook groups, we search on Instagram, we use Backstage. We've also, because we've done this so many times, we've worked with like over 100 different talents. So we kind of have like our own internal group network of people. Plus we also just tap into like friends and friends of friends and cousins and random people. That's just how we do it. Now, beware of talent agencies. They're very pricey and archaic. I would only use them for like TV shoots, if that. But for like simple ads, like a Facebook ad that you have no idea is going to run, past a week, go local to start. That's key. Then whenever you're doing a model or like actor call, you want to be like really specific on what you're looking for. That's going to be really helpful. The last part about talent is communicating. Communicating can be very time consuming. So if you're talking to not great fits, you're really wasting your time. So you really want to be specific of who you're looking for and like look and feel so that like the people that you're talking to, hey, this person fits the bill or not. Clarity will definitely save your time. So to review on the talent stuff, be specific on who you're looking for talent and then use like Facebook groups, Instagram, Backstage to find talent. Now we are looking at locations. So similar to the talent search, you want to be thinking about as you're coming up with the brief and the script, you want to be thinking about what's the space that we need to shoot in. The last thing you want to do is like rent a space, but it doesn't have like a full kitchen. You're like, oh, like we're doing a cooking video, but we only got like this small little kitchen or whatever, right? So like list out what the house or the location needs and the vibes. You need to get the vibes right. Okay. We use Pure Space. This allows you to rent houses by the hour and you get some really nice houses as well, which is good because, you can get think about your ideal customer. Like if your ideal customer is like a person who's like super rich, like you probably would want to have a house that person would live in, right? Like you probably wouldn't want some like dingy apartment. Nothing wrong with a dingy apartment. I'm fine with that. But you want the vibes to match the consumer. So Pure Space gives you those options to get a lot of different types of houses. We also use Airbnb. Now, before you book Airbnb, I personally just you don't just book it and show up. Like you need to message the owner for production approval super important. Explain what you're doing. I'd show past work so they know you're legit. We're in a moment where there were so many people who did Airbnbs and they can't now. There's a kind of like a decline of there's a higher supply versus demand. So people are desperate to fill their houses. So they'll say yes because they're like, I'd rather this place be filled than not filled at all. So yeah, come in and shoot whatever you want. Awesome. Now, I would say, just to be very clear, is you want to be thinking about the date. And this helps you once you know the date to figure out what spaces are available for those dates with the people and where, it's available for those people. I do want to talk a little bit, like we don't work with creators, but I'll talk a little bit about creators, which is the reason why it's hard to find a great creator is because I just talked about how hard it was to find like talent, location, all this stuff. When you're finding a creator, you're searching for talent, location, shooter, and editor all in one. Okay. That's a lot. You need to find a creator that is your ideal customer who lives like in a space and can shoot in a space like your ideal customer. They're good at shooting and they're good at editing. That's a lot to kind of put in, right? So that's why it's better for us where we can get a lot of these kind of a little bit more independently. So, they could be great on camera, but they have a house that doesn't match your brand vibe or needs for the video, etc. So if you're rushing to find creators, your ads will not do well. You need to put in the work to find great people. And personally, I think going through platforms is just like not a good option. So I would really be trying to find how can you get direct connection with different people. Honestly, like I would probably be looking at people who are on social media, who are already creating content within your niche and reach out to them. I'm not saying influencers, I'm just saying people in general. I think they don't have to have a huge following or anything like that. People that are just kind of creating already in that space is huge. I think you should set a price for your payment and just find people who will be okay with that price. Other people will say differently, but I think it makes way less hassle of like negotiations, all stuff. Say, hey, we want you to make videos for us. This is our price. If you're interested, let us know. What's great is like you're owning that relationship with the creators versus these platforms, and that can ensure like great quality control. I think you should start with a trial, and then if you like them, get onto like a monthly cadence. So I just talked about how we come up with talent, location, planning for the shoot. If you work with creators, you can also do it the same way. I kind of gave you the things that I would look for as you're thinking about it, getting a creator. Now, let's actually go and get back to the planning side of things, building a production board. Okay. So you've got your briefs, you've got your talent, your location, everything's set. Now, before you just show up and just start shooting, you need to build a production board. A production board is different than the scripts and briefs that you already have, because what is written may not be the best order for shooting content. So, for example, you need to shoot all of the outfit 1 footage and talking, then outfit 2 footage and talking. So, like, that might not be in the same order. That might not be in order of how you wrote the brief, right? But you don't want to spend time going like, okay, first shot in outfit 1, second shot, oh, I got to go change to outfit 2. And then, oh, third shot, oh, I got to go back to outfit 1. Now you're changing again. It's like, you don't want to change like 5 times. You got to make sure that this is really organized. So for us, we have our videographer. They will take the scripts and briefs and kind of put together like a shot list and kind of order of production. And our production assistant will then like go through all the briefs, pick out the props of what we need, kind of get everything ready to go. All this is kind of on its own production board. The production board is not optimized to read from the script. It's just really for like us as internally to help make sure that the production runs smoothly. Even if you are working with creator or whatever, and you're not shooting like in person like we are, you still need it to be organized, right? Like you still need to be thinking about these things. You want to help your creators think about it in this way. This will help the efficiency and the quality really go up. Because then when we're on production, we're spending way less time being like, what's next? And just executing. majority of our mind share is now on things that matter, which is this the best shot? How did they speak? Is that the best way that they can talk, etc.? So I think it's really helpful to kind of do this with your creator or your team if you're shooting in person. However you want to do it, it will clarify the shoot. Now, before the shoot, okay, so we've got everything ready, but there's one last step before the shoot. You want to brief the talent. You want to send them the briefs. You want to send them the lines before they start shooting. And we usually walk through a bunch of different examples of our content, what we're hoping for. We give them directions on clothes, hair, makeup, accessories, everything. If you're a brand and you're working with, creators, again, I would have stuff written down, do's, don'ts, brief them, and make it easy to get what you want from the creators or even a creative studio from Good Old Studios. Make it easy. Just tell people what you do or do not want. It's really interesting to me when sometimes we'll shoot something, they'll be like, oh, we would never do that. And it's well, you never told us something like that. We've asked you or whatever. Have that stuff written down. Briefing talent can also be really helpful. Again, briefing your creators can be really helpful. This gives them time to be educated on the product, internalize everything before they're actually shooting. Let me go through some last minute production stuff before we jump into actually shooting content and how to shoot content, which is the small details matter. All right. Get the extra props based on the production board. So you have options. Make sure clothes, outfits, sheets, everything are steamed, ironed. Get extra accessories. If you're doing a cooking video, get extra ingredients. Always have more in hand. If you think you need 1 lemon, get 4. A shot might not work the first time or 5 times. So be prepared by having more than less. Trust me. Having less on the day of a shoot is stressful. All right. Now, we've done all of this planning. It's been a long journey to get to actually shooting. This is the fun stuff. Let's jump into it. All right. If you are prepared for this shoot, shooting is actually just so dope and so fun. All right. This is where the magic really happens. This is the chance to execute on everything you've planned. We're talking, you've done all of that research, you've done all the script writing, you've done all of the planning for the production, you've gotten the right people, the right talent, the right space, everything. Boom. This is your time to shine. So when you're there, once you've really planned everything out, most of your mind should be on how to best shoot this product in this space with the talent based on your brief. And if you aren't prepared, you'll be doing less creative thinking and more production thinking. So shooting content is an art form. Don't forget that. So you need to play with shots, discover the best ones. Sometimes it's the unplanned shots that are the best. You can't go deep on an idea or try multiple times, shots multiple times if you're unorganized. If you're unorganized, you're just trying to get through everything because it's just chaos. But if you're organized, you know how much time you have left. You can think about, let's try this in a different way. There's so many things that you could do, right? Shooting content is the culmination of great planning. So it's time to have fun. Let's talk about how to shoot great ads, because that's what we're here for. I feel like people came here, they were thinking, this is how we get great footage. It's taken so long. No, planning. If you've got one thing out of me, it's planning and research. It makes everything else a lot easier. So what you want to do is you're going to try one angle from the shot list, but then try it again. Zoom in, do it again. You want to basically always be thinking about, okay, let's say you have a shot list and you're like, okay, we got to get this, this, and this, and this. Cool. Shoot it this way, then shoot it again, then move your camera or move your body and do the shoot again. And you always want to be playing with distance and space. And this is how you get interesting shots. The reason why we shoot on a cinema camera with a nice lens and everything like that is, and we shoot with iPhones too. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but with a camera, you can move your body so you get that distance. You can zoom in and out on the lens and you get that distance. And then you could play with those two factors and you get a lot of different interesting shots, close-ups that iPhones really can't get. Now, I will say we do have an iPhone 15 Pro, the latest version, and the newest camera is crazy to me. And sometimes I can get close-up stuff that I'm like blown away by. So again, play with it. Most people, if you're shooting on an iPhone, most people literally are just like 1x and that's it. They're like, okay, what's in this frame? It's like, no, play with the 2x, play with the 5x, go crazy. Don't be lazy when shooting. Don't get enough. Explore the angles. The best shots come from experimentation. So play with your distance. Now, obviously, don't take too much time where you then are only on one shot and that's it, but play with a lot of different angles. Beyond just getting like a lot of different content from like different angles, you can play with a bunch of different factors while shooting. Light is another factor. You can have if you have external light versus just like house lights, it can really set the mood or add different texture to shots. I love light. Light is just so important and powerful. Creators might be a little bit more limited because they don't have a ton of external lights. Like we have big lights and soft boxes and things like that. So like you could play with shadows, soft light, harsh light. There's a lot of things you can do. What I would say is have that visual reference handy on your brief, and that can help you kind of guide or build the light into your space. So we've got angles, light. Now let's talk about the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds, this gets its own section because just knowing the rule of thirds will help you shoot better. All right. Fun fact is you can actually put grid marks on your phone. So you can do this. You don't have to have a fancy camera. You can do this on your iPhone. Just go to the phone settings and turn on the grid, the camera settings grid. And you'll see that there's these two lines that go down and two lines that go across. And it basically like tic-tac-toe, right? You'll see the intersections of the horizontal and the vertical lines. At those lines or those intersection points, that's where you can create visual symmetry and intrigue. Okay, so this concept really started from photography, but honestly, you could do it from like a cinematography perspective as well. But essentially, like if you look at those lines, like I love to keep the eyes on the top line most of the time, not all the time, but like I like that. It just keeps a good amount, like so there's not too much space above the person, but also it's not like too far down. You can also like use the intersection lines like points to be where the product is. This grids help you think about it. So not everything has to be center all the time. You can play with framing, and this will actually help your footage stand out since most don't understand framing. And I'm not saying that you should, again, like it's not even like, oh, what camera did you shoot on? Like this is just like how you use your camera will change your footage. And I think that's like the downside of what a lot of like people are saying online, because a lot of people online are like, oh, like you have to use an iPhone. It's like, I could use an iPhone. You could use an iPhone and be bad. Like most people, just because you have a camera does not mean you're good at using a camera, right? So just because you don't have an iPhone or even a good iPhone 15 Pro, doesn't mean you're going to get good footage. But if you know certain concepts, it don't matter what camera you use, you can get good stuff. So framing is everything. If you've ever seen the show Severance, they do a really great job of framing. I actually wrote a thread about this a long time ago. I'll try and link this. But yeah, like really good, beautiful way of cinematography. Again, you don't have to shoot on these crazy cameras to do that. You can shoot on a beautiful, amazing camera and get terrible footage because you don't know framing. So rule of thirds, you're welcome. Let's talk about talent. How to get the best, great talking. Ideally, the talent has practiced and reviewed the lines before shooting. Also, ideally, creators should have practiced their lines before shooting as well. I would definitely have them do that. I would make sure that people have a day before, have internalized the scripts, let their brain kind of think about it, and that's the key. Then, when you're actually on the shoot, we start with the talent reading through the whole script. We record the full voiceover. But as they're reading through the script, this allows us to guide them. We have them redo lines in order to kind of get like a different emphasis or emotion. So we're doing a lot of that like we're just running through the whole script, getting a feel. Then that allows them, as they're about to go shoot all this other content, to have context of what they're about to go shoot, right? Then we do talking lines on camera. And because we have a great brief, we know kind of ahead of schedule what's going to be talking on camera versus not. And this allows us to like focus really on getting the lines right. And what we usually do to make people feel comfortable is actually shoot this part on a phone versus the camera. I think a lot of times people are afraid when they look at this big like camera looking at them. They're like, oh shoot, I don't know what the heck this is. So the phone is great because you can be like, oh, they were just FaceTiming a friend. This is awesome. This is great. So the atmosphere is a little bit different. And we usually do a ton of takes because we want to make sure that each line is said in the way we believe is like going to really resonate with the viewer. And to be honest, it's a luxury to control and shape those lines. Like the downside of working with creators is like, you just don't know how they're talking on camera until they send you the final video. So we're able to kind of like really be on top of that and give guidance as we are doing it. Once all the lines are done and all the B-roll shot, we also do this thing called prompting, where we ask questions about the product or experience. This allows us to get like genuine reactions, stories, lines. And if this talent is like in the ideal audience, if they are an ideal customer, it isn't fake. It's real. It's real people just talking about their experience as they're wearing the clothes, as they're using the skincare. They can talk about it. And prompting can be really powerful if done by somebody who understands ads, right? Because they're going to ask questions that they know is going to lead to a line that's going to build great performance in the ad account. We have somebody shooting the video. So this whole section is directed by our creative strategist who can ask the right questions, knowing what will be great for the ads. And in general, this is awesome that we have our creative strategists who were the ones that did all the research, came up with the ideas. They're the ones directing the shoot. So I think that's always great. Here are some things to think about while shooting. All right. I'm going to give you a quick checklist. You can take it as you want. We've got number 1, what is in the background? Can I see things I don't want to see? Number 2, how does talent look? Are they wearing everything correctly? Number 3, are things steamed and look good in the space? Number 4, is the camera level or is it tilted? If tilted, is that on purpose? Number 5, is that too much light or too little? Number 6, how does the color of the image look? Number 7, is this the framing I want based on the rule of thirds? And number 8, when getting ready to talk, do a sound check. Is the mic on? Does it sound natural? Production is no joke, people. And even when, like if you really want to get nerdy with shoots, feel free to hit me up. I'm always down to go in depth even more, but this is everything that we do. But again, it comes down to the planning, right? You can't be playful within the space with shots and ideas if nothing is planned. So if you come with a great plan, but you're a little bit more flexible with that plan, you can spend the time executing. Think about all the different shots and ideas you have. You always want to be trying, how can I get a different angle? How can I do this differently? Planning is everything. In this episode, we talked about how to plan for a shoot. Even if you're working for creators, how to plan, set the date, get the location, get the talent, how to prep, production board, all that stuff. How do you take something from a brief to a production board to an actual shoot? And then not only actually getting ready to shoot it all, but also best practices of things to think about as you're shooting this content. There is a lot that goes into this. A lot can go wrong. I kind of talked about it in a way that was, it felt good. It felt like, I felt like I didn't give you as many war stories, if you will, but there's plenty of times where, product didn't get to us on time. So now we got to replan the whole shoot. Person gets sick. A house falls through. I mean, everything that's happened, you've named it. It's probably happened, but it's made us stronger. This process is dialed in to the point where we're shooting 3 or 4 times a week. And we've got it to a point where we're able to execute at scale quickly, but still obtain that quality because we're focused on the prep. every episode that I'm going to go through over the next few weeks will end up talking me going back to prep. If you do great research and prepare, you'll make a great brief. If you make a great brief, you'll be able to do great production. If you do great production because you had a great brief, because you had a great research, you'll be able to have a great edit. And then from there, you'll be able to use the data, and the data will actually be helpful because you actually had an idea and intention from the brief and the shots and the planning and the production and the edits. And then it'll get you back to the starting point to make a great creative system. That's episode 2, people. I'm loving this. I think this is a great format. I'm kind of tired of a lot of these interviews. I'm not against interviews, but I like to be able to feel like we're going in depth, you and me together as friends, as family. And if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. And if you're not, you don't have to stay, but I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to do this all day. So thank you so much. Subscribe, do all those fun things. Follow me at Matthew Gutozzi on Twitter. And I'd love for you to check out what we're doing. I tend to post a lot of the behind the scenes stuff of our production. So if you're ever interested in wanting to see what we're up to, I try to post a lot of the like pictures and all the lights and the setups and stuff like that. So check that stuff out. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer all of those questions. So you just let me know. And that's it. Number 2 in the books. And we'll see you on episode 3. Sayonara. Bye-bye.